in that After Hours episode talking about celebrity poker. We were talking about Tobey Maguire for a little bit. And
love that guy.
Molly's Game.
I'd play Spider-Man.
I know you would.
I'll play old Spider-Man.
Literally old Spider-Man.
We're the same age. Actually, he's 2 years older than me. 2 or 3 years.
I can't get enough web.
Yeah. It's not the same as it used to be. You know what I'm talking about? It comes back.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm still slinging webs. Even the way he does it changes. It's just old man. He's just like, I got your webs right here. It's not the same as it used to be, but they still work. So I had this thought.
Yeah.
What if Maria, our producer, Maria,
Yes.
from the show, called us tomorrow and said that we have Tom Cruise. You get to interview Tom Cruise tomorrow on the show. What would you ask him?
Well, I would probably ask him about his time working with Stanley Kubrick for Eyes Wide Shut. I think some people really like the movie. I think some people are like, what's the big deal?
I'm not too familiar, but it's one of those, like, you got to do it. As an actor, it's like when Scorsese calls, when George Lucas calls.
I would even say when Spielberg calls. I did watch, just as a side note, I did watch his last movie, the
Major Fabelmans. I actually want to see it.
I watched it, and I was like, this is weird. This is a weird movie.
It seems weird, but that's probably why I want to see it.
It's 2.5 hours. It's an interesting film. It feels like a Spielberg film, but it's also bizarre. It's just a bizarre film. It kind of made me want to revisit a lot of his other films because, I watched, Kelly had never seen War of the Worlds, and I had watched it the other day, and in watching it, I'm just like, there is almost this nihilism in that film that is just like...
They had a falling out on that film, I believe, right? They didn't work well together, apparently.
Oh, Steve and Tom?
Yeah. Or maybe it was in the marketing of it. I don't know. I heard there was tension. I know now it's like a big part of the Universal tour, which is actually really cool.
The whole plane.
It was kind of cool. I remember watching that on HBO at my condo by myself.
Yeah.
I really liked the first half. I was bored by the second half. And then I was like, it's all nature? What?
Well, and that's the thing. Like the beginning where there's like explosions and, everyone evaporating and everything. I was like, wow, this is really intense. And then it just it slows down a little bit. I actually really like the Tim Robbins part when they're in the little... Tim Robbins after the hill blows up and Tom Cruise feels like he lost his son and everything else like that, and everyone's running away, and Tim Robbins like, over here, he's holding up his shotgun, and Tom Cruise and his daughter, the little girl, they go in there, and the Tim Robbins character is just kind of like, those that survive fight. They fight real hard, and I'm watching this, I'm kind of like, I've never really focused too much energy on this, and I think because when I was younger, I want to see more explosions, I want to see all that stuff, and that Tim Robbins character is just a really creepy person.
Well, you notice I've been smiling this whole time because he just plays the best one-off characters, but
he's very good. And then Tom Cruise kills him. He's like, I need to kill you. So he blindfolds his daughter. He's like, I gotta go do something.
I don't remember any of this. It sounds really dark.
It's really dark. And I was like, it hit me in a way that was just like, this is pissed off Spielberg.
Wow.
He is very upset.
Interesting. Has he been divorced? He was divorced
many
in the 80s.
years ago.
But he's still with Kate Capshaw?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was married, I think, to Amy Irving before that.
No, I remember they got divorced in Temple, which is why people are like, it's so dark because he was going through a divorce, just like at the same time George Lucas was. Like, they say the same thing about the Beatles, or like every band is like, whatever. Same thing. They were going through divorces. It was a really dark time.
Yeah.
That sounds really. I feel like I should go back. I remember feeling underwhelmed by that film, but all that stuff's great. All that stuff sounds great. But what I was going to say is that it just made me. All I could think of was him in The Pick of Destiny. Do you remember Tim Robbins?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
And he's
It's like Spielberg wasn't in there.
He has that one line. He goes, "I miss that sweet ass leg of mine." He's just so good. He's got these gross ass teeth, and he's like stalking Jack Black in the bathroom while he's taking it.
When we were talking Tim Robbins with,
we've never really talked about him on the show, have we?
But we talked. We brought him up briefly in the Bull Durham when we were talking about that.
Was that? Did that make an edit? Did that make a cut?
Yes.
Which one?
It's not out yet.
Okay. I was like, I haven't seen that episode.
Sorry.
Or maybe I have. Well, look. Did that make the final cut? I don't remember that.
We bring up Bull Durham.
It's a great baseball film.
But you're like, is Tim Robbins in there? Like, yeah.
Oh, he's great in that. But he's the rookie.
But he's a good director too. But in he did Dead Man Walking. Did you ever see that one?
No.
With Sean Penn? Anyway, so
I heard good
sidetracked here. Also Susan Sarandon in that one. But
got
with
a lot of Oscar buzz on that one is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's a very hot movie right now. We'll be right back, folks.
Yeah, I got to work on that laugh of mine. So like Grandpa from the Munsters. Like, what am I doing over here? You give a man 3 Michelob Ultras, it's over, folks.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with those things, man.
Yeah, it's liquid crack. I don't know what it is.
War of the Worlds.
Okay.
War of the Worlds. As far as I'm concerned, a very intense movie. If you really just think about kind of the subtext of that film, it is not Independence Day. It has a mean streak to it.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like it has a lot of anger wrapped around the story.
So I pitched the Fabelmans to Sarah because I did see something. I was like, that actually looks like right up my alley. I love that idea of like life imitating art imitating life, blah blah blah. It's based on his childhood.
Yeah.
Do you think I should watch it, with or without my wife?
Yeah.
As a fan of film?
Yes.
It didn't win anything, right? It was nominated.
It's nominated for a number of things. I think that it is a good film. I think that it is a deeply personal film. I don't think that it is it's a more intimate film. It's not a grandiose thing.
Is Spielberg washed up?
No.
He's not?
I really don't think he is. You know what he is?
What was the last good thing he's done?
This movie.
Oh. Damn it.
Yeah.
So it's a good movie.
Do you know this? Okay, so this is an unfair comparison, I think. To me, I'm just gonna say it. I think Christopher Nolan works really hard to make a good film. I think his movies are not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that what he does, like, it speaks to certain people, and I think he works really hard to put together a film that people would enjoy, people like. I think Spielberg could probably whip up a movie that is good and it is efficient. It's got good actors, good story, all of that. He can just put that together like that.
I mean, he's got the benefit of decades of experience, right? So he's like, you're talking about like the fact that he could just throw something together. Well, sure, he's been doing it for 40 years and he's really good at that.
But
is it good stuff?
It's good.
Nolan he's making the Oppenheimer film, right?
Yes.
I'm actually kind of excited about that, but I don't know if I should be. Just because I love Robert Oppenheimer. I love the story. I don't know if I love the man. Very interesting fellow from the research I've done. I don't know if it's going to be a good film. I do know, this is interesting, kind of a throwaway, but apparently whatever studio's making Oppenheimer, let's call it Paramount, whoever, they have a YouTube live going 24/7 of just like the 15-second trailer. That's all it is. And when you go click on this video, you can see how many people are viewing it, and it just goes. Like now you can do, I guess, YouTube live like indefinitely. You just do it forever.
Yeah.
So I checked it out.
Yeah.
Last time I clicked on it, I was one of 6 people watching. And I was like, this seems kind of sad. Why is this still up?
I mean, look.
And I felt like I was part of an intimate group. I should have chatted. Does everyone who here loves Robert Oppenheimer? Any Oppenheimer fans in the house? And the trailer is basically just a fireball. It's really, they don't give us a lot.
Yeah.
But it's that Irish actor, Cillian Johnson.
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Johnson, like I said. Yeah. Cillian Johnson's in it. He plays Oppenheimer. He seems like a good dude. Very serious in all his roles. Sorry. But go on.
I think that Steven Spielberg, I think people take him for granted. I think that he can make a movie, a good movie, a well-constructed movie that's technically just like flawless.
Sure.
Whether or not it's like you enjoy the story or not, I mean, that's.
Well, he typically doesn't write them, right?
Generally not. He doesn't.
So,
but like, he's made movies that are. I just don't think he's interested in making a movie. He's not like, oh my God, I need to make the next big, huge action blockbuster. Like, he has proven himself time and time again.
Tenfold,
He doesn't
100-fold.
need
Absolutely.
to make. He doesn't need to be the biggest filmmaker in the world. He's already proven that he can do it. He's already proven that he knows his craft. He makes Indiana Jones. He makes Jaws. He makes Jurassic Park. It's like, yeah, those are his movies that he did. He can make his...
He could have quit at Jurassic Park and people would have still said he's one of the greatest filmmakers ever.
He could have quit.
And that was 27 years ago, like 29 years ago.
He could, like... I think for him to make a movie like Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in 1 year, you're like, I know how to make a movie.
It's pretty deep.
I know how to make different types of movies. I know how to make a movie that will make you like feel excited, and to make a movie that'll make you like wow, this is the worst of humanity, but also the best.
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
Saw that in the theater.
He knows how to make a movie.
He does.
He is far beyond
driven.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is
he's on a different level than I think most other directors. And if he wants to make a movie called The Fabelmans, where he talks about his life growing up for a period of like 15 years of his life,
shooting on
and
like
show
8mm or 16mm,
and just be like, yeah, my parents had an interesting relationship. I grew up in this broken, dysfunctional household. We did the best that we could. It's got a lot of, like, you know, as Spielberg is Jewish, but he was like wrestling with that.
Anti-Semitism, sure.
Lots of
I saw that in the trailer. Yeah.
And
no, it's like,
just like,
I saw it and I was like, I would definitely check this out. But Sarah's like, it doesn't really seem my vibe. I mean, man is a genius.
I think so.
Next on our show, Steven Spielberg. Ladies and gentlemen, yay!
I watched
which one? Because I know all of this episode.
The Tony episode. So Kramer's
the
a
cool
seat
guy.
filler. He gets the Tony.
Oh,
and then
Tony, not the person Tony. Okay.
Right.
Oh, Raquel Welch.
Raquel Welch, Summer of George.
So that's a big one. Yeah.
So I was watching it, and I was you know, I don't know what it is. Times change. That show is very old. At this point, it has
absolutely.
It's very old.
30, 40, 35 years almost.
No, what?
It started technically in like 89, 90.
But it ended in what, 98, 97?
Yeah, 98.
98. Okay, so we're talking a considerable amount of time. You know, I was still in high school, for crying out loud. But in watching that show, I'm wondering, you know, is Seinfeld ever gonna just like go away? Is it outlived its welcome?
Sure.
You know,
there are whole articles on this. Sure, because it's also, you know, kids today. Like there's a good example is The Office, right? Office had a huge resurgence within the last decade with kids that were born 15 years ago, right? So it's like coming back. Seinfeld has gone through that. Sopranos has gone through that. Obviously, very different shows. It's like if you take the laugh track, you take the laugh track out of Seinfeld, it could be as dark as The Sopranos. Actually, if you think about it, there are people that do that. There's whole YouTube channels that just do that.
Sure.
But I guess what I'm saying is, It is different. You know, you're also dealing with a time when there were no cell phones and no social media. So would kids today see that and be like, I don't understand the jokes because I have no context. I don't know how people lived like this. Why don't they just look this person up on social media? Like, what is all this hullabaloo about whatever, the social grace in certain situations? Because now everything is all about social grace. Back then, it was about not having social grace.
Well, in watching the episode, this is also one where Molly Shannon was in there, and there was like the whole cat fight thing. And
she ends up putting what's-her-face in the hospital, right? That's the episode. Raquel Welch ends up in the hospital.
No. George is in the hospital at the end because he slipped on invitations that he got because Jerry was going out with Amanda Peet, and Amanda Peet was like...
There's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah. The idea is that for Jerry, he's like exhausted. He's hanging out with Amanda Peet, and she's very demanding, you know, and she's just like, I want to do this and this and this. And there was that other guy. Do you remember him? It was like another guy that was living with Amanda Peet.
That's her roommate.
Her roommate slash boyfriend slash I don't know what.
It's very ahead of its time, yeah.
But it's such the entire episode. The fact that I can tell you like there's this storyline, that storyline, that storyline. That's like some of the impressiveness about a show like Seinfeld is because each episode is
2 to 3
pretty
character
filled,
arcs. Absolutely,
with content. And
there are 3. It's usually A, B, and C, even in Seinfeld's case.
Yeah, and they're doing this for season after season. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, we're struggling to come up
We never even
with
got to a C
something.
story. Wait, have we even had a C story?
I don't think we have.
We've had a couple of D stories, but no C stories.
Just the amazing amount of you know, they did references to things, but just in seeing these episodes and just being like, that's notable. Like, that's enough for an episode. For another show that is not as smart or not as sophisticated as Seinfeld was, that would be the entire episode, just one storyline. Whereas Seinfeld would do multiple storylines, characters, like you have the whole, you know, Kramer being a seat filler, getting a Tony, and then wanting him to tell Raquel Welch that her straight arm thing is like not good for the dancing. It's weird. You know, that's its own thing. On top of Jerry's going out with Amanda Peet and trying to, you know, maintain the relationship with her because she's so demanding, with George's Summer of George, and just then Elaine's, you know, whole like, you know, dealing with the woman Molly Shannon who's trying to kill her.
Right.
It's like that's all in one 22-minute episode, and it doesn't feel cramped.
It's impressive.
It's incredibly impressive.
And they weren't all like that.
No.
But there were several where there were. But yeah, and that's one of the things that, again, it did, like most shows, I think it got a little bloated. It was a little weak those last 2 seasons for sure. Especially with, they tried their best to kind of rein Kramer in, but by the end of the show, like, Kramer was just like this entity. He was just Kramer. He was like, they had to tell the audience to stop applauding whenever he entered the scene. Like, that's how bad it got.
Well, and watching it, yeah, I mean, that's the thing with watching him in this episode. You know, he's definitely, I think when people are looking at like comedy can change, but people who mug for the screen, sometimes, you know, certain age groups will find that funny. And then certain other groups age groups will look at something and like, oh, that's more sophisticated or that's more subtle. But Kramer in this episode, he's like, yeah, cat fight, you know, and
cat fight.
It's goofy and silly, but it's really on that line of just like almost parody versus, well, that's just Kramer.
That's always been his thing.
He has, and that is, I guess the culmination of this whole like talk about Seinfeld is, can a show that is that old still hold up?
Maybe what you should be asking then is, do sitcoms hold up in general then, right? Because essentially, like, the sitcom ended with Seinfeld, I would say. Well, maybe Friends, I guess, but I'm never a huge Friends fan.
I watched a little bit of it. I think it still holds up.
They've had to change since then. They're not. They barely even exist anymore. Nobody watches sitcoms.
Is that rain?
Yeah.
Jesus I'm gonna have to start
It
this off
hasn't-
with a little bit of rain. You know,
It started raining on Christmas and it really hasn't stopped.
It really hasn't.
It's insane, but I love it.
So I watched a
Except for the whole garage door thing, but yeah. Sorry. Mr. Train, meet Mr. Derailment.
What's that from?
I just made it up because I feel like that's all I'm doing right now.
I watched.
Train?
It was an After Hours episode where we were talking about poker.
After Hours.
Yes, remember that show that you're also part of? Have you not gotten your checks for that yet?
Wait a second.
Somebody owes me some money.
The Bank of Zambia. Meanwhile, okay, so I like how the joke was the Zambia bank, and meanwhile we have banks just collapsing here in this country. I should have gone with the Silicon Bank, SVB.